One of the final steps in making a chart is repositioning measures and expressive text and formatting it so that it looks neat and is easy to read for our players. Here's what it might look like before that formatting process, and here's what it should look like after formatting it. To move measures around in the chart, I'm going to use the selection tool. I'm going to select the measures I want to move, and then I'm going to use the up and down arrows on my keyboard to move them either to the previous line with the up arrow or the following line with the down arrow. So let's say I want to take these three measures and move them to the previous line. I'm just going to use the up arrow. Let's say I wanted to take this measure, and we'll move that here. Let's take this whole ending, and I'm going to use the up arrow, which will take it to the previous page, and so on and so forth. Here's a few guidelines for formatting charts. The main goal is that we make it easy to read for our band members. We want to have as few pages as possible and not go over 2 pages if we can help it. A 1 to 2 page chart requires no page turns, and again, that's easier for our musicians. In this chart, we were able to move the outro and ending over to the first page and still make it look neat. So if you're working on your chart and you find that it's over 2 pages, do your best, use repeats, use second endings. Once in a blue moon, I'll use a coda. And over here, we were able to make an 8-bar line instead of a 4-bar line, which actually made the chart shorter as well. Sometimes this doesn't work because it'll crowd things together too much, so be careful with that. But in this case, it still looks neat. Another guideline to keep in mind is to try to maintain logical musical phrasing when you're deciding which measures or how many measures go on which line. So in rock and pop music, that's usually going to be 4, 6, or 8 measures per line. So a quick example of that is what we've done in the course here. We have 4 bars here, followed by 4 bars in this next line. You can see that the chord progression is exactly the same on both lines, and then it makes sense in how we separated it. So what we wouldn't want to have is something like this, of 5 bars and a 3 bars. Obviously that doesn't make sense for the player to break up the musical phrasing like that. An exception to this is what we've done at the bridge here, where we have 5 measures in this line, an odd number. But I think in this case it's more important to follow this next guideline, which I'm going to show you, which is to keep your rehearsal marks at the beginning of each line if you can. So again, this keeps things consistent and makes sense visually to have the sections start at the beginning of each line.